Hello students, today we will discuss about another one important topic of rheology chapter, that is anti-thixotropy. In my last class already we have discussed about the thixotropic behavior, that means gel sol gel transformation, that already we have discussed about that. So today we will discuss about anti-thixotropy or negative thixotropy. So just remember thixotropic behavior, gel sol gel transformation. Can you remember gel sol gel transformations, thixotropy? So what is the definitions of thixotropy? Just remember what was the definitions of thixotropy. Thixotropy is defined as an isothermal and comparatively slow recovery on standing of a material of a consistency lost through shearing, or that is also known as shear thinning system. Why? Because after applying shear force, the consistency that will decrease. That means gel sol gel transformation. That last class already we have discussed about that. So today we will discuss about anti-thixotropy or negative thixotropy. So what is anti-thixotropy? Anti-thixotropy or negative thixotropy represents an increase in consistency on the down curve. In cases of thixotropic behavior, we have seen that initially the viscosity will decrease, and after that when shear force is decreased gradually, the rate of shear that will decrease. So because of that, two types of graph we will get, one is up curve and down curve, and the down curve that will shift it to the left side in cases of thixotropy, but in cases of negative thixotropy, the down curve that will shift it to the right side. So anti-thixotropy or negative thixotropy represents an increase in consistency on the down curve. We can take one example. See that magnesia magma. Magnesia magma. What is that? Magnesia magma exhibit an increased resistance to flow with increased time of shear compared to the resting state. If we see the rheogram, then we will understand better what is anti-thixotropic behavior. See that in the rheogram, the down curve that shifts to the right of the up curve. When magnesia magma is sheared alternatively with increasing and then decreasing rate of shear, the magma thickens. That means the viscosity will increase. As this cycle continue, the extent of increase in the thickening reduces gradually, and finally it will reach into the equilibrium state. So there will be no change in the consistency curve on further cycle of shear rate. Clear? See that in the rheogram or consistency curve, we can see that the down curve that is shifted to the right side. So when we will continuously increasing the shear stress, it does not mean the increase in thickening that will be also increased. After some time, when this cycle continues, the extent of increase in this thickening reduces gradually, and finally it will reach into the equilibrium state. So if we plot the rheogram, then we will get a curve like this. See that first one is up curve, then down, then again up, down, like that. So A, B, C, D. So this type of curve or rheogram that we will get in cases of magnesia magma. These following types of molecular interactions are possible in this case. In the resting state, what will happen? In the resting state, the system consists of a large number of individual particles and small floccules. Now, when the product is sheared, the polymer molecule collisions are increased at a greater frequency. As a result, interparticle bonding increases. Again, I am repeating. When the system is present in resting state, the system consists of a large number of individual particles and small floccules. Now, if the product is sheared, the polymer molecular collisions that are increased at a greater frequency. So when the molecular collisions are increased, As a result, interparticle bonding that will be also increased. So at equilibrium state, the large floccules that are available in small number. However, the system exhibits Sol form at equilibrium. So when the product is allowed to rest, the large floccules again it will break up and gradually return to the original state of small floccules and individual particle. So that is the reason behind this. Now just remember dilatancy or dilatant flow. Sorry, dilatant flow. So in cases of dilatant flow also, what we have seen, with increasing shear force, the viscosity that will also increased. So negative thixotropy should not be confused with the term dilatancy. In cases of dilatant flow, the volume is increased, so the availability of vehicle to lubricate all that particles, that is not sufficient to lubricate all that particles. Because of that, viscosity will increase, consistency will increase. So in cases of negative thixotropy also, viscosity is increased or consistency is increased. So there may be chances of confusion that negative thixotropy and dilatancy both are same. Actually both are different. In cases of dilatant system, the dilatant systems are deep flocculated and the volume of solid that is more than 50%, whereas negative thixotropy that is seen in a flocculated system which contain very low solid, for example 1 to 10% only. See that in cases of antithixotropy that occur in flocculated system with low solid content 1 to 10%, in cases of dilatancy more than 50% high solid content is there. In cases of antithixotropy, solid form gel more readily in resting state than shear state. In cases of dilatancy, solid form gel more readily when sheared rather than resting conditions. And in cases of negative thixotropy, sol is equilibrium form. In cases of dilatancy, gel is equilibrium form. So that is the difference between negative thixotropy and dilatancy. So question may be asked that thixotropy indicates gel-sol-gel transformation. Listen carefully. Thixotropy indicates gel-sol-gel transformation, while negative thixotropy indicates sol-gel-sol transformation. True or false? Justify. So what will be the answer of this one? Thixotropy indicates gel-sol-gel transformations, while negative thixotropy indicates sol-gel-sol transformations. So true or false? Justify. The answer is the given statement is false. Why? Because thixotropy indicates gel-sol-gel transformation. The dispersion behave like a gel at resting condition. Liquid is free flowing on shaking at equilibrium and again gel at rest. But in cases of negative thixotropy, on agitation the viscosity increases but the system still behave like sol at equilibrium. So the anti-thixotropic material has adequate porability. Hence negative thixotropy does not indicate sol-gel-sol transformation. This will be the answer of these questions. Okay. So thixotropy versus anti-thixotropy. Thixotropy decreases in viscosity as a function of time upon shearing, then recovery of original viscosity as a function of time without shearing. For example, Procaine penicillin G, 40 to 70% W/V in water. In cases of antithixotropy, increases in consistency on down curve with increase in time of shear, increased collision frequency of particle, example magnesia magma. Okay, so this is a comparison in between the rheogram of thixotropy and antithixotropy. See that in cases of thixotropy, the down curve that is shifted to the left side, but in cases of anti-thixotropy, the down curve that is shifted to the right side. Next is determination of viscosity. How to determine the viscosity of any liquid or any semi-solid preparations. And how to select the viscometer. The classification and applications of equipment, that means viscometer of different type. For example, in cases of Newtonian system, the rate of shear is directly proportional to the shearing stress. Therefore, single point viscometer that is sufficient to determine the viscosity. So different types of viscometers are used. For example, capillary viscometer and falling sphere viscometer. In cases of Newtonian fluid, shear stress is directly proportional to the shear stress. So instrument that operate at single rate that can be used, but in cases of non-Newtonian fluid, instrument which could operate at variable rate of shear that are required. Two type viscometer, that is two types, single point and multi-point. Single point viscometer, example Oswald viscometer and falling sphere viscometer, and the application is Newtonian fluid. So for determination of viscosity of Newtonian fluid, we can use Oswald viscometer as well as falling sphere viscometer. But in cases of multi-point viscometer, we can use different types of viscometer. For example, cup and bob viscometer, cone and plate viscometer. So these types of viscometer that are applicable in both Newtonian as well as non-Newtonian fluid. Okay, so one by one we will discuss about that. So first one is capillary viscometer or Oswald viscometer. In practical, already you have used this. You have determined the viscosity of different types of solution in lab. So what is the formula for determination of viscosity by using Oswald viscometer or capillary viscometer? Already you know about that. So that is known as capillary viscometer, and it follows Poiseuille law. It follows Poiseuille law for flow of liquid through capillary. The apparatus consists of a glass U-tube viscometer made of clear borosilicate glass and constructed in accordance with the dimension given in official book, that means IB. Oswald viscometer is used to determine the viscosity of a Newtonian liquid. Both dynamic and kinematic viscosity that can be obtained from this. So this is the picture of Oswald viscometer. When a liquid flows by gravity, the time required for the liquid to pass between the two marks, see that, start and stop, two marks, one is A, another one is B, through a vertical capillary tube, that is determined. The time of flow of the liquid under test, that is compared with time required for a liquid of known viscosity, generally that is water. So the viscosity of unknown liquid that can be determined by using this formula, eta 1 upon eta 2 is equal to rho 1 T1 upon rho 2 T2, where eta 1 that means the viscosity of water, rho 1 that is density of water, and T1 that is the time taken to flow from start mark to stop mark, that is time required to travel for water. Eta 2 that is viscosity of unknown liquid, and rho 2 that means density of unknown liquid, and T2 that is the time of flow of unknown liquid. Okay, so by using this capillary viscometer or Oswald viscometer, we can determine the viscosity. Sorry. The method is, first clean the viscometer properly. You may use chromic acid or simple alcohol. Fill the viscometer with the liquid being examined through left arm of tube to slightly above the bubble using a pipette. Now suck the liquid till start mark, then allow it to flow till stop mark. Now note the time of flow for liquid from start to stop mark. Determine the viscosity using formula already I have given, eta 1 upon eta 2 is equal to rho 1 T1 upon rho 2 T2, and the viscosity of water that you can take 0.9 centipoise. Next one is Hoepler viscometer, or that is also known as falling sphere viscometer. Falling sphere. So from its name itself, what we can say, okay, falling sphere, that means, see that one steel ball is there. The principle involved in the falling sphere viscometer is based on Hoepler viscometer. The apparatus consists of a glass tube which is positioned vertically. A constant temperature jacket with provision of water circulation is arranged around the glass tube, because we know that temperature, that is one of the factor on which viscosity depends on. So the test liquid is placed into the glass chamber. A glass or steel ball that is dropped into the liquid and it allowed to reach the equilibrium with the temperature of outer jacket. So the tube with the jacket is then inverted, which places the ball at the top of the inner glass tube. So the time taken for the ball to fall between two marks, that is accurately measured. This process is repeated several times to obtain the exact result. The viscosity of a Newtonian liquid that can be calculated by using the formula that has been given, eta is equal to T SB minus SF into capital B, where T means that is the time interval in second for the ball to fall between the 2 points, SB that is specific gravity of the ball, and SF that is specific gravity of the fluid. B is the constant for a particular ball that is supplied by the manufacturer. Now, depending on the diameter and material of construction of the ball, this instrument can be used over a range of 0.5 to 2 lakh poise. See that range, 0.5 to 2 lakh poise. For better result, select a ball which takes not less than 30 seconds to fall between the two marks. The largest possible diameter ball should be employed. Actually, it follows Stokes' law. Glass or steel ball roll down almost vertical tube containing the test liquid. The speed at which ball with particular density and diameter falls in is inversely proportional to the viscosity of liquid. Obviously, viscosity more, the time taken for ball, that will be also high. Proportional to the viscosity of the liquid. Sample and ball are placed in inner tube and allowed to equilibrate at temperature. Tube and jacket inverted, and the time required for ball to fall between two marks is noted down, and it is repeated several times. And viscosity is calculated by using this formula. Eta is equal to TSB minus SF into B. T means time interval in seconds, SB specific gravity of ball, and SF specific gravity of fluid, and B that is constant for a particular ball which is supplied by the instrument manufacturer. Okay, so today up to this we have covered. Next class we will cover the remaining portions of the rheometer or viscometer. Thank you.